Hi everyone, it's Victor speaking. I'm here today with Donnie, and then we're going to be discussing the lunar node changes. Um, well, I'm quite excited, or should I be? Shall I be not? Let's figure out together. So, North Node, South Node spends approximately 1.5 years in each sign. So this next week, actually, the big shift is gonna change, or it's gonna happen. So we most probably can expect some changes coming up. By the way, I would like to make an announcement that I will be holding a webinar in 2 weeks' time in regards to your midheaven. So if you want to figure out what the midheaven holds for you, what type of job you might want to do in order for you to earn more money, or just to feel more, to feel happier, basically, then sign up. I think it's going to be about a 5-hour webinar, and I think it only costs $39 or something like that for the early birds. So I'm looking forward to see you there. How are you doing, Donnie?
I'm good. I'm actually very excited for the notes changing signs because eventually it will meet up with my important planets in Gemini. So,
Okay. Well, is that a good thing or a bad thing? It depends how we look at it, I guess. So before we actually jump into what, North Node and South Node might bring us in a mundane world, let me just explain what North Node and South Node talks about. So South Node is believed to be your comfort zone. South Node is believed to be your past life, basically something which you learned, something which you developed, worked hard on, and then you bring it into this world to use it, especially at the beginning of your life, and then eventually going towards your karmic contracts, and that's going to be your North Node, something which you're going to have to, in a way, learn about. Is that easy? Not necessarily, because when it comes to the unfamiliar territory, it's something you don't necessarily want to do, right? Because it's unfamiliar, you don't know what to expect. We can also say that the South Node, especially mundane astrology, is going to be describing somehow the problem, where the problems are lying, and the solution is going to be the North Node. But once we found the solution, actually, we're going to come back to the South Node, which is going to be the outcome again. So, for instance, from 2018 till 2020 May, we had the nodes in Cancer. So we had the North Node in Cancer, and then we had the Capricorn South Node. So what was the problem with the South Node? Well, we're talking about the hierarchy system went off a little bit. Capricorn rules politics, it rules large organizations. And I believe I mentioned in one of my previous videos that, something like 49% of the Earth wealth belongs to only 1% of the population, which is clearly not fair. And the South Node also indicates something to do with your comfort zone. And of course, that's something, again, Capricorn, we were hiding behind all these structures and so forth. And then we've got the North Node, which we had to learn about, which is the solution. And that's something to do with Cancer, realizing how powerful your family is, something to do with your home environment, basically creating your own comfort zone, right? In a sense, we can say that probably this is your family business energy as well. So the whole idea, what we had to learn in the last 18 months, was building a strong inner foundation. No wonder why we are spending so much time at home at the moment, because the problem was pretty much about a power-driven politics, system, and structures. It was all about work, 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 work. Whose song is that, Donny? It's I just gave my mind a bit.
Rihanna.
Oh, Rihanna. Oh, that's why I don't remember. She's not necessarily my favorite. Yes, but the solution is actually staying at home, creating a safety for yourself, nurturing the ones you love. And again, if I look at the South Node as the point of outcome, then it would be about a better working system, a better um, system which takes into account your personal needs as well, not just about the governmental and the work related needs. What do you think about this, Donny?
But regarding the
Regarding,
notes like till
um,
now,
yeah.
well, when the North Node actually hit like the final 3 degrees, that's when this whole like, you know, thing we're experiencing on a global level um, happened. And what I actually found by talking with like be it clients or friends and family is that they've all just been so busy out in the world, which is Capricorn, South Node, that they kind of neglected their own inner needs. You know, it's like this manic drive to really achieve a lot in the world, and then now it's just kind of like it's just like a circuit break almost, and people are just kind of like being forced into their home, which is Cancer, very appropriately, to to be in their space and be in tune with their feelings, which is very tough. North Node, right? It's so uncomfortable. Um, but yet there's like a lot of like buried treasures that's coming out for people to actually move forward with the nodes changing signs coming up. I find to
So
be
what do you think we
curious.
have to learn having North Node in the sign of Gemini?
Well, first of all, I think according to Ptolemy, um, North Node is actually exalted in Gemini and the South Node as well in Sag. And in a sense that it's a very curious axis because it naturally rules the third and ninth house. But also to actually question our old dogmatic belief systems, that's the South Node in Sag, to go towards absorbing and shifting our paradigm of perspectives and thought patterns, which is Gemini. You know, so it's getting to the stage whereby it's almost like a lifeline, I find, because we've been stuck in that old paradigm of thought for quite a while. You know, it takes time to crystallize. And now with this like mutable axis, with the nodes occupying it, it gives us a time to kind of reset where we want to go. And that's by true talking, writing, learning new hands-on skills like maybe taking a course online. I just pity those because South Node in Sag, right? It rules those who just graduated from university. And to actually survive in a society, they have to go to the North Node more, which is like, well, my specialized knowledge in uni now have to be like put that aside and then go and learn a different spectrum of skills just to survive. Yeah, because my brother belongs to that batch who's graduating.
Do you suggest that the skill-based vocations are going to be a lot more important than the university degrees and so forth?
Um, well, because I can only say from my experience because what I learned from uni at least, and also like when I asked my brother, it's more theoretical, which is Sag, and now you have to go the other way, which is like hands-on. I mean, Gemini rules hands. To actually get down, get your hands dirty, and just like learn by observing.
It's
you know.
very interesting you say that, because the Saturn Jupiter conjunction happening also in air sign might indicate that. And it was happening on around 0 degree of Aquarius. And Aquarius is not necessarily a sign who wants to go to university either, because that's about breaking away from that traditions. Anyway, it's not, Aquarius is not against knowledge or studies and so forth, but it's a genius sign. So what's the point in me going to university when I am way ahead of my time? But when we had Saturn and Jupiter conjunction lost in air signs, that's when the universities got pulled up. So how interesting that we've got again this air element getting activated by North Node and Saturn and Jupiter conjunction, and maybe the education system also somehow gets a little bit of a focus. And yes, I agree, Gemini is all about the thinking process, how we process and make sense of information, right? Mostly from a logical point of view. It's about gathering facts. And Sagittarius is pretty much about the moral, the more abstract level of information. It's the, somehow, let's call it a higher octave of the information. So Gemini sees things with their eyes and feel the information and so forth. But Sagittarius is somehow even connecting the dots between the invisible and the visible world as well. And this is something which is media. So I'm also thinking, uh, do you think there will be some new legislations around media, how they deploy their news? Or yeah, I'm hoping
Well,
so, to be frank.
well, I think that because like when you mention Sagittarius is the mass media, which is what we are fed as as a population. So the ruler of that Sagittarius South Node in a few days will still be in Capricorn for the rest of the year until it conjuncts Saturn like end of the year. So in the sign of Capricorn, ruling that South Node in Sag, I find that it'll still be shoved down our throats
Yeah.
in that way on a mass media level. And then when it actually shifts into Aquarius with Saturn, I think we're going to see like more independent media that we're going to feed off of to actually expand our avenues for exploring the truth of what's been going on so far. Um, this can actually help the North Node in many ways, in the sense that it helps to shift our thinking patterns of, like we'll be more interested in facts, what's actually real, than just like what is the so-called supposed truth that's fed to us by the media.
Yes.
So people will be more like independent thinkers, but there's also more chance of like getting into quarrels. I find, because there's so many different like bombardments, different viewpoints, and it's like, oh, I saw this like um news channel on YouTube, or this on Vimeo, and God knows how many platforms are there out there. So it's going to be a very interesting time to. It keeps the conversation going, which is Gemini, which is good.
Yes, Gemini is more like about the local type
Mm,
of community, right? And
yes.
Sagittarius is, as you said, the mass media and basically the world. Do you think that all these social media channels, such as YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and so forth, somehow gonna get restructured as well?
I think when Jupiter Saturn meets up in Aquarius by, at the end of this year, it's going to be like a new breath of fresh air. There could be more platforms coming. I mean, till that comes, right? The North and South Node will be in Gemini Sag axis for a good half a year to let things settle in. pattern wise or energetically wise. So yeah, people will be more inclined with that South Node. I think people will be inclined to really learn new things and explore them, and they'll be questioning more about the belief systems that they have been holding till now. It's like, with this current situation, what can I do to make some important choices in the now, which is Gemini. You
That's
know,
right.
yeah.
You
I
know,
think people will
I,
be feeling more emotionally compelled too, because this year we still have two more Mercury retrogrades in water signs.
yeah,
And that's the North Node ruler. So people will be this like, it comes from the emotional plane, like, I need to make choices, emotionally based choices, but yet like, where do I find those information from the outside? And they'll have this curiosity. I mean, Gemini Sag are very curious, both very curious signs, and you set them off on this journey of like, oh, okay, I actually can shift my present point of view of what the world has been to move forward.
we're also talking about studying axis here. So we did mention that maybe the education system is going to be changing. But I also believe that, the Sagittarius in a way is an impersonal type of communication system. But we've got the Gemini, which is more about the personal one, the day-to-day interaction type of communication. So, for instance, what I mean by that is that Sagittarius pretty much could talk about the authors and the lecturers at universities, and maybe online gurus we learn from, but you kind of never meet them. Maybe this is going to be also changing, and you're going to have the opportunity to meet these people. So maybe the online platform is going to shrink a little bit, and then people are going to go to local areas to meet people. And maybe that's one of the ways how the spirituality also going to grow, because we shouldn't be forgetting that Mercury does rule um, astrology. So I'm expecting a growth from I'm expecting growth when it comes to astrology as a science. Some people might believe that Uranus rules astrology, and let me explain to you why I think actually this is Mercury. So according to the ancients, maybe, well, I can explain it, I think, without showing a chart. So according to the ancients, Mercury is a planet which rules the twilights. Why is that? If you really think about Sun ruling Leo, the next sign is Virgo, so there is not a major aspect between the Sun and Mercury ruled signs there. If we have a look at Moon and the next sign, which is Gemini, right? Cancer and Gemini, also there is no connection between those two. So the luminaries have no clue over what Mercury does at all. And this is not the case with the rest of the planets. That's one of the reasons why Mercury is called as the planet of tricksters, because he has no energy or no obligation towards the luminaries. Now, there is only one way when Mercury becomes somehow visible for the sun and the moon, and that's going to be somewhere around twilights, and which is only lasting for a couple of seconds. And astrology is something like that. It's a mystical subject. It's translation and interpretation of symbols. So I believe more and more people are gonna gain knowledge over um, over even religious stuff or astrology as well. And it's not just going to be about these exotic concepts and cultures. How do you think this nodal change is going to affect travels?
Well, I mean, like international borders, which rule Sag, um, yeah, it's occupying the south node, or should I say, like the south node is occupying that sign. So international border restrictions will still be like in enhanced mode in this the next 18 to 19 months approximately. And I think we'll be like, just be visiting our mom and pop shops, in which we should, you know, um, because those are the businesses that are really like has the danger of closing from this whatever we're experiencing now.
Let me tell you what's happening right now in Hungary. I do have to mention, because this is pretty much about Gemini and Sagittarius axis. Um, Within Hungary, within the country, at the moment, there is also borders. So not just with foreign countries, but within the country as well. So the whole capital city cannot leave the capital city and go somewhere else, because you're going to get punished. Because we've got this massive lake somewhere in the middle of the country, and this is very popular among tourists. Of course, the sun is shining, everyone becomes a little bit itchy. So the whole capital city went down to the Lake of Balaton to enjoy sunshine, and police couldn't do anything about it. So now there is this legislation that people living in Budapest and around the county, they cannot live, or they're gonna face $500,000 of fines. Yes,
I can
yes.
imagine that if one wants to travel long distance, which is Sag, or like even contemplate relocation, which is also Sagittarius, yeah, they might have to uh, leave their plans to a later date, perhaps, and just focus on the now, the present, and also the immediate environment, like what circumstances they have to deal with, like um, right now, than just kind of like, oh, I think I'm going to relocate in like a year or two. Maybe those plans might have to be reshuffled.
Maybe the local tourism is gonna get more emphasized in the next 18 months. Because Gemini is all about the local environment, right? And then we've got Sagittarius, which is all about the exotic places. And of course, people like traveling to exotic places, but the prices are growing and growing. Now, if we have a look at the ruler of Sagittarius, which is, as you said, Jupiter, and being in the sign of Capricorn, and then from later on, it's going to go into Aquarius as well. Now, Capricorn is all about restriction. Um, um, Aquarius could talk about censorship. So that's going to be something interesting to see here. What type of legislations they're going to bring in regards to protect, countries' people. And I can imagine that it's going to be a little bit harder to get a visa. It's going to be a little bit harder to actually move to different countries. Now, we saw that some of the bigger countries are already making some type of legislations trying to get rid of some of the immigrants, or even people who have been working there for a certain amount of time, and then they pay taxes. They want to protect their hours.
Well, I think like as long as Jupiter is still in the sign of Capricorn to the end of this year, um, long distance travel will be a hassle in terms of there will be a lot of paperwork just to fill in and to prove that you're healthy enough to be on foreign land, and Sagittarius also rules international trade, and Gemini is about local trade or local consumption needs. I've already seen like since whatever that's happening, was it February or March? I only can say for Asia because that's where I am. Like Indochina, like Vietnam, um, Burma, or Myanmar, countries along there, Cambodia as well, have actually blocked their exports to where I am. Thailand is still selling like grains to us as in rice, but at inflated prices. So there's a recent initiative in which the government here is going to pump in like 30 million, I think, local dollars to actually boost the ramp of vegetables, eggs, and grains. Very appropriate for this nodal axis, in this sign because when Jupiter enters Aquarius, it's going to square Uranus in Taurus, with Saturn following closely behind and 3 times next year, I think, for Saturn. So it's about uh, um, taking quantum leaps, which is Uranus, in terms of food security, Taurus, on a social country level, which is Jupiter Saturn in Aquarius.
Yes.
To be independent.
Probably, just to maybe summarize, I think we're going to have plenty of new legislation coming up in regards to short distance travel versus long distance travels. Maybe we're going to see a very profound transformation in the way also we travel. I think the education system will change. I think how we use internet at all and how we connect to people is going to completely change as well. So probably the inner circle is going to get a lot more emphasis of your own rather than the outer circle, which is Sagittarius. And what I mean by that is, people you interact with without physically knowing the person online. I don't know, half of my friends on some of the social media channels, I have never even seen them in my entire life because they just added me because of the profession I have and so forth. So local trade, I completely agree. You know what? Maybe gardening is going to become a lot more important. Let's look around first what you have got in the garden. Maybe I've got tomato, you've got cucumber. Let's swap. So the local trading, the market, the flea markets might be coming back. And then we can enjoy, digging deep and then finding treasures there. I'm also expecting to see something like that. Yes, education. I think it might become more hands-on type of education. So more practical rather than just learning about, all the theoretical part of things. I'm also expecting something happening with driving. So if someone wants to get a driving license, it might be a little bit different. How it was before. Do you have anything else to add as a summary?
Well, I've got a few points here. Let's see if you agree. I basically wrote down like when the nodes change signs, right? It's probably a time to reduce global infrastructure dependency and improve local provision.
Yeah.
And have localized means of producing essentials such as food, medical supplies, just to name a few, to be self-sufficient.
And toilet paper.
And this lockdown that we are having, right, actually highlights the importance of our contact with the natural world, which is also in a way relevant because earlier on you mentioned about Mercury as the ancient ruler of astrology, but there's also like a metaphysical meaning of Mercury, which is the psychopomp.
Yeah.
And a psychopomp is actually um, a guide whose primary function is to escort souls to the afterlife, where they can also serve as guides through the various transitions of life. We are going through a transition stage right now. So it's almost like a bridge, a connecting bridge. That's the function of a Mercury here. And we're just trying to find out what the future has for us, all of us. So what do I have? Oh, yeah. Maybe we come to the realization that we need to stop flying around the world so much because it is not our fundamental right,
Yeah.
and openness and transparency of facts come into the forefront, and not just being fed by the mass media or by higher authorities up there as, oh, okay, this is the truth, you should believe it. Yeah.
I'm sure, being very futuristic era we live in, I'm sure the traveling is definitely going to change quite a lot. So maybe flying cars or somehow elevated cars, going somehow in the air, new ways of figuring out roads and so forth. So there is going to be some very exciting part of it as well. But I do believe that maybe the social connection to each other is going to become more important, and maybe there is going to be some legislation brought up also when it comes to media. Because I believe people are going to be claiming that the media needs to be a lot more fact based, rather than that mass media talking basically rubbish and putting everything on the plate which has no valid background whatsoever. And this is what killing our society. And of course people are curious, Gemini, but people are intellectual as well at the same time. But we have got issues of deciding what is true and what's not true. So I believe maybe there is going to be some clarification going on around these subject as well.
Yeah, I was just looking at the ingression chart when the nodes change signs, and at the point of ingression of the nodes into the new signs, Sun and Mercury are exactly on the same degree, occupying the fixed star Mankar.
Okay.
So yeah, um, not not exactly a very positive fixed star. So I wonder if there's gonna be a period where, at least when the South Node ruler Jupiter is in Capricorn, till end of this year, that there might be protests going on.
Oh, I can imagine that. I mean,
Yeah.
Mars is going to be in conjunction with Aries, the asteroid of Discord, some type of protest I'm expecting. Yes, and I'm expecting a second hit of coronavirus or something similar. Maybe it's not going to be called coronavirus, but there is going to be something in the air.
And
Um, as I said, somewhere in January, I believe, or February, I believe that the coronavirus will slow down somewhere in the middle of May. Now it seems to me that it is slowing down, and I predicted that around the 13th of May, the borders are going to reopen and so forth. But I think this nodal change might be bringing us a very quick and hectic decision. Because remember, at the moment, we might be still focusing on the Sagittarius part of things, which is about the mass production and the mass media and so forth. So the need to reopen the borders, it's Sagittarius is a fiery element. So they really feel the fire that it should be done or the economy will collapse. Of course, the economy needs to be mentioned here because Jupiter has been in the sign of Capricorn for now almost 6, 7, 8 months, and then we've got this Aquarius energy coming in the way, which is all about detachments. So the economy is starting detaching itself from different countries and so forth. So so definitely something which we experience. And I think when it comes to the decision making process, which is going to be belonging to Gemini and Sagittarius, it is not going to be fact based. What the North Node suggests. Of course, at the beginning, when North Node shifts into Gemini, we are going to be showing reluctance. No, 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 thank you, no. Right? We're still going to be living a little bit of a Sagittarius at the beginning. And this is going to give us, or this is going to bring a little bit of a risk of the virus to reoccur. But of course, this is not on us. So all you can do is just stay at home, be careful. I know the beautiful weather is tempting. And I also believe, because Gemini and Sagittarius rules the news, gossips, rumors, and so forth, some of those will come to light, surely.
I found a
And
few very interesting things regarding the chart as well.
go ahead.
If you go down to that planets table on the bottom right
This
of
one
your screen,
here.
Venus is actually out of bounds, very out of bounds.
Yes.
And it's in exact square to Neptune in Pisces. It's almost like we really want to meet people, but not just yet, because we could be falling into a trap. It could be wishful thinking to connect with on a one-to-one basis, which is Gemini. Yeah, that might be wishful thinking. That's how I feel.
So if someone
And
doesn't know what out of bound planets are, it's a very nice observation what Donnie made there. I was just teaching that on the aspect master class. We spoke about it for a good 2 hours, and people really love talking about it because they discovered plenty of new ways of interpreting a chart. So when a planet is out of bound, how I can describe that to you is, imagine that you've got the window, and then you looking out of the window, and then you see people outside playing in the playground, and you are like, Jesus, the legislation says you should be staying at home, but people are still on the other sides. Now the sun is the ruler of the solar system. So imagine that the parents are leaving home, and then you've got the kids doing whatever they want at home. So there is also that saying in English, right, that the mice are not at home. No, sorry, the cat is not at home, so the mice are playing around. And this is exactly what happens with the out of bound planets. Now, Venus is the ruler of Taurus, and that's where Mercury is at the moment of the ingression, right? And Mercury is going to be ruling the North Node, exactly what we have to learn. So the out of bound planets are always bringing in some very Uranian trait to it. We're going to see a couple of twists. We should know that Uranus is the planet of twists. Yes, just wait for it. To predict with Uranus is not easy. You think 101 angles of one problem, and the 120th will happen. So Uranus is a tricky planet, surely.
well, carrying forward with what you just said, because it's like Venus is actually very close to its station retrograde degree as well,
And
as is also out of bound, and is squaring Neptune. So it somehow links back to the North Node with the rulerships, like what you mentioned. And it seems like it's still premature to be let out to see people on a one-to-one basis. Because when I see Gemini, I see lungs. When I see Neptune, I see virus.
yeah.
So if we actually prematurely, because North Node is a trap that we can fall into if we are not careful, um, to just let our guard down, that this thing may actually come back, whoosh us once more. And interestingly, when uh, South Node actually ingress into Sagittarius, the ruler Jupiter is actually getting ready to go retrograde
Yeah.
in like a week and a half's time. I think middle of May it'll go retrograde. So we'll be, revisiting like the mass media from the government, like keep blasting us news, like to even like instill fear, because Capricorn and its ruler Saturn also like is something fear based as well, to actually keep us into a lock, kind of like the fear is to latch us into that fear, you know. So it's gonna be a very interesting time till the end of the year. Then when it moves into Aquarius for that Jupiter in 2021, I find that it's going to be like there's more vertical integration of the food chain as it squares Uranus as well.
Mm-hmm.
So can you imagine all the smaller suppliers? I think we actually gotten news out of the US, like some um, that farmers, the smaller farmers are forced to actually like throw away their crops, which is a which is ridiculous, like uh, because because of what's going on, and it's just setting the stage for like big corporations uh, to buy up those smaller suppliers and become like a oligopoly or monopoly. So I think the message here is to really support your local mom and pop shops, local
Exactly.
produce.
And that's, yeah, exactly. That's again very Gemini North Node there, supporting the local shops and markets and so forth, rather than going for the
Yeah,
mass production.
yeah,
Well, it's a little bit of a video of giving you a taste what to expect in the next 18 months. We hope you like the video, and thank you very much for Donny to join me today to have to shed a light on what's coming in the future. We are going to be back with another video, which is going to be about North Node and the South Node in each of the sign. I mean, what each of the rising sign can expect. So stay tuned. And the next video will be released in the next couple of days, so you can get yourself prepared. Thank you very much and have a lovely day. Bye bye.